What is going on, guys? Evan here to talk about Nasm's stage training method on cardiorespiratory fitness. One thing to note about the National Academy of Sports Medicine, or NASM, is that they like to put emphasis on safe and effective means of training. With this in mind, NASM's use of stage training method, which I will get into in a moment, aims to improve and progress cardiorespiratory adaptation while minimizing the risk of overtraining, which leads to injury. Stage training has three stages that vary in intensity and are also based off of progression. Stage 1 are for fairly healthy and sedentary individuals. If they have specific medical conditions, they must get approval from a physician. Stage 2 aims to improve fitness for those who have little to moderate cardiorespiratory fitness. I would say this is about the average person. Stage 3 are for the more advanced individuals, and they have a moderately high level of fitness, so these would be your typical athletes. These stages rely on two important factors. NASM identifies the intensity through the heart rate zones and ratings of perceived exertion, or RPE, which is also technically the Borg scale from 6 through 20. This scale is used to ask the client how they feel, with 6 being very easy, 13 being somewhat hard, and 20 being extremely difficult. There are 3 cardiac training zones. These zones are divided from the heart rate max. Zone 1 is around 65 to 75%, while Zone 2 is 76 to 85%, and Zone 3 86 to 95% of the maximal heart rate. So how do we target these zones? Well, we can use the heart rate reserve method. First, this formula takes the number 220 and it gets subtracted by the person's age. So let's say 22, and I would get 198 beats per minute. Then you take the heart rate max and subtract it by the resting heart rate. So let's say my resting heart rate is 55 beats per minute. So I would take 198 minus 55 and I would get 143 beats per minute. Once you get that value, you multiply that value by the intensity of whatever zone you want. Let's say I want to hit zone 3 at 90% intensity. So I would take my original value of 143 and multiply that by the intensity, which is 90%, and that would equal to about 129 beats per minute. Now that we have this number, we add back the initial resting heart rate, which was 55 for me, to get the desired heart rate for the intensity. So 129 plus 55 would equal 184 beats per minute. Now 184 beats per minute would be my desired heart rate if I want to hit zone 3 at 90% intensity. This is also known as the Karvonen formula. Now that we know how to target these heart rate zones, we can be more accurate in determining the stage of training. In stage 1, we have to remember that this stage is for sedentary individuals, and we want to remain in zone 1 or 65 to 75% intensity. NASM also suggests that the RPE, or ratings of perceived exertion, should be around 12 or 13. If the individual ranks the difficulty above 13 or below 12, we should reduce or increase the intensity. Stage 1 also puts emphasis on duration. So progression to stage 2 will depend on the cardiorespiratory adaptations or if it is clearly too easy for the client. Stage 2 focuses on increasing workload speed and level. In this stage, the trainee should be around 65 to 85% of their max heart rate and should rank the RPE at around 14 or 16. Since stage 1 built a foundation, we can expand towards interval training. Interval training allows the trainee's heart rate to fluctuate up and down through zone 1 and 2. To do this, we create dynamic intensities. By slightly increasing the pace of the exercise for about a minute, we can raise the trainee's heart rate into zone 2. After being in zone 2 for a little bit, we can decrease the pacing back to the initial pace. This will slowly put the client back into zone 1, and this would conclude one interval. The amount of intervals can also vary and is hugely tied to the RPE. Stage 3 is the highest stage of cardiorespiratory training. This stage opens up the use of the third heart rate zone as an interval option. The intensity is elevated to above 85% of heart rate max and have an RPE of about 17 to 19. This stage also elevates the risk for injury due to the intensity. So, extra precautions must be taken along with better communication. In other words, start looking for signs of degrading dynamic posture and trying to understand how the trainee feels by just asking them. These stages allow for safe progression in training the cardiorespiratory system. The dynamic change in heart rate with intensity strengthens the heart, and this improves circulation to the muscles and overall improves oxygen efficiency. Although these stages address the fitness level of the participant, adequate recovery must be given along with good communication. This is to minimize risks for injury while maximizing progression.